answers. I just want to know this is
Oh, right.
what the, you know, site charts.
It's a pricing model based on the number of contacts you have in the database, and it can go from like 90 and 95 to hundreds of dollars,
Okay.
depending on how big you're talking about. But the average is around $49. Most
Yeah, maybe must have that.
But it handles website, email, text messaging, finances, database, so it covers everything.
Thank you. Because I really love I know, it's okay. That's the West Coast Community Association that is in bad shape. I think my, I just have my business, that's just my. If you never do, I'll send you my web page. Yeah. Yeah. Right. That would just be great. Just a couple questions. Yeah, no, I'll send my email and I would just, and I'll send you one. Yeah. And then I'll send you my, yeah, and I'll send you my address. I'll send you the link to my website. And if I process, but I didn't give you my email because I didn't know somebody said this morning. And they were something that, yeah. So if you're interested in my, I am very much. Send me, I don't know. Thanks.
So I thought about it. I think I would change the way
What are you?
you're
Okay.
well, here's one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see. So we can have a whole bunch of.
Well, this is the trick would be how I do that I went back.
Nice. I'm very interested. Thank you.
By the way, you have a schedule here, Ms. which you know you should do.
Thank you. Thank you. You're coming back. Oh, It's it just works with all the new changes in software that come up. It still works like a charm. And that's the benefit. We have to update about time. And you can
I got it now here.
yeah. Thanks so much.
The screen is too small. Push the button at the bottom of the screen. So all of our sessions we've started about 5 minutes late, and so I think we'll just wait a little bit longer to let people come and join us. While we wait, feel free to send a text message to check in so that we know that you're here. And we'll be sending you the slides and the video for all the sessions. Yeah, so we'll get started in just a few minutes.
Uh-oh. Anybody here an expert in social media?
Define experts.
Yeah.
Based on how many hours a day I spend on it, or what I can do with it.
Why do you ask?
No, I'm not saying that. Good. Thank you. I have to show this to you.
Yes.
So, this is what
Oh, yes.
this. Sharing cat photos, obviously. Thank you, Charlie.
Yeah, I would personally the last 2 likes. Sorry, tell it. You don't want to do today or I would love to be here. So nice to meet you. It's Charles. Nice to meet you. That is sure. Thanks a lot.
Small business.
Yeah, I can't remember. I was like, I'd love to talk to you guys. Okay, so I'm sorry I can't say anything it's really bad. I would love to talk, so we can I'll do it with you and then. Yeah, I'm in Toronto on Monday. I'm in Great, thank you. Good luck. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. And I want to call you.
Oh, that's right.
But let me know it. Bye.
You know, it's pretty old school.
That's why I'm.
You know Rails.
Because what they're doing.
So,
Pretty about that.
well, you should kind of
Go there.
my current developer is hired to build on
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I saw that.
current developer,
25
Yeah.
pushing on Wednesday.
Can't hear that.
But no, we should start that. How long?
whether it needs to be, or that matter, it was like, this is kind of. All right, so I think we're going to starting about 5 minutes after start time, and if it works well, though I do expect that we'll have some people come and trickling in. I'm going to get started. Has everyone sent a text message to that number? It's how you'll get the slides and videos that we're building for these sessions today.
I've gone to campaigngears.com. Is that it also?
Well, this one right here will let me know that you were here today, but you can do that too.
I don't have a cell phone.
Leave me a message on there. Just say what session you were in.
Okay, thank you.
So this session is hampered a little bit by what we were planning to do was basically just do stuff and show it to you. But I have to have my back to you to do that because the computer's facing the wall for some reason. So bear with me while we figure that out. And I'm going to remind our American friend, he is not quiet. The trouble with closing the door is that this room doesn't seem to have any air conditioning. It's all coming into the door. You saw me coming anyway. So, great. Slides here. So we are doing digital skills for movement building. The session that we're talking about right now is about NationBuilder. The title was NationBuilder in One Workshop, and frankly, here let me. I've been debating the last few days how exactly to do this workshop. There are two ways I could do it. One is that I build a workshop in front of you. I build a website in front of you. Sorry. I sort of got to the point where I felt like that might be a little boring, just to watch me click what it's like. And so what instead I'm proposing that we do is think of a handful of operations that are pretty commonly needed on a website, and then do those specific actions. To start a website on NationBuilder, you really just sort of follow the wizard and ask you a bunch of questions, and then ta-da, you have a website. But the activities that I think would be best to look at might be a little more interesting. Does that make sense? Or I know that I'm proposing that we do something that's completely different from what the workshop description was, but I think it'll be more interesting. Cool?
Sure.
All right.
Just bear in mind, most of us have not built a website.
Okay, fair enough. So before I go too far along here, I do need to acknowledge our sponsors. Our Unifor, the union, has helped sponsor these. They paid for rooms, in fact. The Waterloo Regional Labor Council has contributed money to help put these together, which is remarkable considering that none of their members were actually able to come all the way to the People Social Forum. which is part of why I'm quite so focused on making sure that these videos work. Though I notice that this is pointed all right. And of course, finally, our final sponsor who's been quite helpful in making this happen has been NationBuilder. And I want to introduce my co-facilitator here, who's Edward, who's the head of business development at NationBuilder. And if you want to talk about yourself for a moment.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. So I am, even though I work for NationBuilder, which is based out in California, I am Canadian, so I'm using my loud Canadian voice for it here, but normally nice, polite, quiet Canadian. I've been a NationBuilder for a little over a year and a half, and in that time I've seen the company go from being 25 people to being over 150 today. We are a platform. I'll get into a little bit more detail in a bit, but we're a platform that allows you to have a website that's connected to a database of your supporters, that's connected to your email list and your social media accounts, all in one system. And we're growing very, very quickly in Canada. We're in fact opening field offices outside of California for the first time, and 2 of them are in Canada. One will be in Toronto, and one will be in Vancouver. Both of those offices will be opening either towards the end of 2014 or very early in 2015. So excited to be here and excited to meet all of you. Thank you for coming.
So myself, just to speak about myself for just a moment, I'm the president of Campaign Peers. We're a consultancy group, and that's where all those people are. Charles, you just put away a bunch of chairs.
I put chairs in the room across, so if you could just grab those chairs.
So I'm the president of Campaign Peers. We help progressive nonprofit organizations do their campaigns better. And in fact, most of our clients are people we're going to use here for demonstration purposes. They are on NationBuilder, many of them. We built NationBuilder nations for them. But I come to this, besides just being a geek, this is how I grew up to be a geek, but besides that, I come from the labor movement, where I served as a labor organizer for about 10 years. Most recently, before forming Campaign Peers, I was National Organizing Director for Workers United. And so I come to this, come to these kinds of platforms and tools with the mind of how to build organizations that have more power and are better at achieving their stated goals. So that's really what I focus on. Campaign Peers doesn't actually have any particular official relationship with NationBuilder, other than the fact that we have been certified as NationBuilder architects and NationBuilder experts, and a lot of our clients, we use NationBuilder with them. But we do other things outside of just NationBuilder. Our interest is really focused on the needs of our clients, our organizations, and helping them be more effective in achieving their goals. And NationBuilder has served their goals pretty well for a number of our clients so far. So, let's see. I think your slide deck. So, do you need me to click when you're doing stuff?
Sure, that's probably, or I can potentially do that while it's just
There's a wire. Why don't you talk?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, you should go to the next slide, and actually probably the third slide is fine to start with. So today we're primarily talking about building a website on NationBuilder. But if you're building a website on NationBuilder, there's a particular reason why you're using NationBuilder and not putting it on WordPress or using another content management system. So I wanted to talk a little bit before we can get into actually the fun stuff of what matters when you're building a NationBuilder website, why you would be doing that in the first place. So if you're building a NationBuilder website, you're doing it because you want your website to do something and to generate engagement beyond just a website that looks pretty and it delivers content. You want to have a website that is actually a two-way communication platform rather than just a medium for your message to get out to your universe. So NationBuilder, as a platform, it's a content management system for your website on, but it's also, as I said, a people database, and it's also connected to all of the different communication tools that you would use, so that you get away from the typical hurdle as an organization of having your email list over here and your volunteer list there and the people who have commented on your website here and your Twitter account over there, and never having to communicate and never benefiting from the information that you can get from knowing that someone has engaged in a particular way with your organization. So we think of digital organizing as a means, not as an end. We don't think that having a good digital presence is on its own really worth much. The reason you have a digital presence is so that you generate the real world actions that you care about, right? So IDing your supporters, engaging those supporters, moving them up the engagement ladder, getting volunteers, getting donations, and basically taking your community that is, maybe at the moment sort of an undifferentiated group of people that are in some way supportive of your cause, and finding the people who are leaders both online and offline and trying to empower them. So how do you do that? So what you want to first, you want to capture those people, you want to then grow their engagement, you want to reward the people that are really engaged, you want to empower them. Your website is a very, very important part of doing that. And there's tons of different kinds of engagement, right? And so the reason that you would have a NationBuilder website is because you recognize that one of the ways that people will often engage with your organization is by going to your website and filling out a petition, maybe signing up for your email list, maybe just commenting on a blog post that you put up on your site. But it's one of the many different kinds of ways that someone can engage with your campaign or your organization. And you want to try to capture every single one of those types of engagement. And it really is important to not let anybody slip through the cracks, right? Because any time that somebody indicates interest in your cause, your organization, whether it's on social media, on your website, by opening an email you sent them, it's really a pity if that happens and you don't know about it and it slips through the cracks and you can't follow up on it, because that person, maybe they would have wound up being a passively engaged person who just kind of follows your cause, but maybe they would have wound up being a donor, maybe they would have wound up being a volunteer. You never want to miss that moment. And there's a few ways that you can miss it, right? You can, first of all, never capture it in the first place. Secondly, you cannot follow up on it having captured it. And third, you can have different silos of information where you maybe don't know that somebody who has volunteered has never donated, or vice versa. And so this is what it's all about, right? Is moving people who start at the bottom of this up the ladder of engagement, and having a website that has ways of actually doing that, of moving people from a more passive kind of relationship with your cause up to a more engaged and involved relationship. So you want to do things like taking people who have, if you have a NationBuilder account and social media accounts, you're going to have those connected. You'll know anytime someone takes an action on social media, and then start to reach out to those people, move them up the engagement ladder. They fill out a petition on your website. You think, great, we're going to follow up with them and see if they want to come out and volunteer. And one of the specific things that you can do on the website platform with NationBuilder is basically define a journey that somebody is going to, that someone's going to take on your website. So ways to move people up that ladder. The first point here is that you can create a series of pages that someone is going to land on. So let's say that you are really promoting the heck out of a petition that you've got for your cause. And so a lot of traffic is coming to that site. What you want to do is configure in NationBuilder to have, after someone clicks sign the petition, then they land on the page to endorse your cause. And if they do that, then they land on your volunteer sign-up page. And if they volunteer, great, then they can wind up on your donation page. It's all about maximizing the 30 to 60 to 90 seconds that someone is actually paying attention to your cause and is on your website actively. Yes.
Just as an example of that, so one of our clients is the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare, which is a very small group. There's 2 staff. And I think that they have a lot of traffic, a lot of things that people look to them for are materials for people who are newly engaged in the childcare industry, how to do various different things. Previously, they'd always just been, you ask for it, you get it. Now on their site, you ask for it, you get it, and then you land on a page asking for a donation. And some people can't afford to donate, that's fine. But a lot of people do actually say, oh, this is pretty valuable, I'm going to throw some money in. And now they have a whole new stream of money coming in, which if you just say go and donate to the Child Care Coalition is not as effective as, oh, well, you got this thing, hey, now maybe you'll give some money back to us so we can keep going and developing more of these documents. That's a good example.
Okay, we go to the next slide. So this is just an example of what it looks like when you are basically chaining pages together. So maybe you have an event that you're promoting, and so you let people RSVP for that event on the site. So there's two things that happen. One is they're immediately prompted to share it. It's on social media, because anytime you've got someone taking action, ideally you want not only them to do that, but you want all of their friends on social media to know about that. And secondly, then it points them to the donation page, because as Ethan said, sometimes people, if they are going to take this one action, maybe they're going to be a good donation prospect. So the other, that's okay. So the other part that I mentioned was the social media engagement. So on your site, you want people to take actions, and you then want to spread that action as widely as you can. So every time, no matter what the action is, signing up for your email list, signing a petition, commenting on a blog, any action on a NationBuilder webpage can be configured so that it prompts that person immediately to share it on Facebook and Twitter. If they do, it then will give them a recruiter ID that will basically, when that gets shared, anyone else who comes back to your website and takes that same action, because of that person, you're going to know that this one person who signed your petition and shared it on Twitter or on Facebook is actually responsible for 15 other people coming back to your website. That kind of goes back to us considering digital as a means and not an end. A lot of times people think if my website gets a lot of views, I have a lot of Facebook fans, I have a lot of Twitter followers, I'm doing digital well. But what's really important is knowing in that universe of people online who is actually effectively recruiting new people to your cause, who's recruiting more money, who's recruiting more volunteers, because those are the people that deserve a phone call, that deserve personal outreach from you to see if you can further activate them. So it's all about identifying the leaders in your movement, and a lot of that can be done on your website. So people all get their personal tracking link, and whether it's a donation or signing up to volunteer or RSVP to an event, you know who your sort of most prolific and active volunteers and supporters are. Which then lets you recognize those top leaders, right? So you want to not just grow the number of people in your cause, but you want to recognize and empower the people who really are your devoted leaders in your cause. So you can give them points for things that they've done, whether it's recruiting other people, taking actions themselves, and across all of the different sort of things that someone can do online, email, social media, their website. And then you can make these leaderboards public and inspire a little bit of friendly competition between people and then reward them with things that are high perceived value to the person. So maybe it's a T-shirt, a coffee mug, it's a lunch with someone from your cause. High perceived value to them, low cost to you, but enough to inspire a little bit of friendly competition. So I sort of covered this a little bit already, but the sort of unhelpful version of digital organizing is, okay, listen, great, I got 20 new donors because I encouraged people to post on Twitter. But helpful digital organizing, next slide is saying, okay, great, 25 people donated and shared it, and I saw 20 new donors, but I also know that 80% of those new donors actually came from just 2 of the people that shared it after they took that action, because I'm using NationBuilder, because my website gives them that recruiter link by default. And you reach out to those 2 people because they are clearly very high value, very high potential to become really useful parts of your overall support universe. And so, and as I also said, you want to assign points to things, you want to get some friendly competition going, have those public leaderboards. This is what a public leaderboard looks like. Someone signs up for a personal fundraising goal. You have leaderboards that you can either make public or private to see how people are doing. And again, always, always, always prompted to share on social media. So we've sort of already covered this. You can get people to sign up for volunteering as well as a number of other actions. So we can move through this one pretty quickly. Another thing that's been really effective, so there's an interesting story about this from the candidates was less well funded, less well backed, didn't have the sort of endorsements from all of the leaders, but was using NationBuilder and gave their supporters the ability to host their own events, whereas the other campaign was more of a sort of traditional, you have to go to our committee to get it to authorize to host an event. Letting your supporters easily set up an event on your website with NationBuilder and then allow people to RSVP for that and give them all the tools they need to have a successful event is really a great way to let your supporters feel empowered to actually make a difference for your cause. And this candidate, over the course of the last 6 weeks of the campaign, had 500 supporter-hosted events happen all across the city. Wound up winning, I think, in large part because of all of the new people that were ID'd at those events, many of whom became volunteers for the election day, and many of whom became donors in the last crucial 6 weeks of the campaign. So a website, as I said at the start, to sort of wrap up, a website is great if it's just a way to communicate your message, but it's even better if it's a way for you to communicate your message, let people see the sort of public face of your cause, but also enrich your data, also build on what you're trying to do, which is ultimately create a two-way conversation with people. So, it's great to send an email blast to 1,000 people on your email list. It's even better to send 5 different blasts to 200 each of those people based on what petition they've signed on your website or based on what blog they commented on your website, because then you know a little bit more about them. You can make the communications a little bit more targeted. So as NationBuilder, we are purely focused on building this technology platform. That's why people like Ethan are so crucial to helping people to use NationBuilder and grow with NationBuilder. Ethan and his company Campaign Gears are one of our best architects and expert certified companies that basically can help you get the most out of the software platform, because we are just focused on basically building out this platform, getting it to be used by as many people as possible, sort of try to democratize the democratic movement, so that access to tools is not one of the things that keeps you from being able to organize, being able to promote your cause. We want the best tools to be in the hands of as many people as possible, and people like Ethan are incredibly important to helping people really maximize what you can get out of NationBuilder. And our platform is costed simply based on how many people you have in your database. So a couple of sample costs here. If you're a small organization, it can be as little as $19 or $29 a month. If you're a large organization with a much larger email list, then the cost grows sort of as it goes up. So I'm going to turn it back over to Ethan to actually sort of get into the guts of how to do a NationBuilder website and what's kind of important in building that. So thank you. Appreciate you guys having me.
All right, so so as I was saying a bit earlier, I was hoping to be able to be at a computer more over there, but this computer seems to be chained to the wall, and facing the wrong direction. So please bear with me while we do this. I'm going to try to.
Can you move the thing?
No, the base is even locked in the ground.
It wasn't that simple.
No, it is. So, can everybody see me in the back? In the back, you might want to move over that way so you can see me better. I have to sit here, unfortunately. So, my plan for today was to basically go through a couple of key activities that happen on a NationBuilder website that are often done. And we could start with these 3. It was mentioned by someone, oh, well, I don't run my own website. So let me ask, how many folks run their organizations or their own personal website right now? How many of you are, how many of the folks who did not put up your hand? How many of you are? Let me do it this way. The folks who didn't put up their hand, can you, one or two of you pipe up about what you hope to get out of this workshop? Are you planning to take on this kind of work in the near future?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So then, for everybody, what is your plan in regards to NationBuilder?
Certification?
Say it again.
Can we get certified?
Can you get certified?
In build it in NationBuilder as a software, as a?
Yeah, sure. Well, Campaign Gears is certified as an expert, as an architect,
Right.
and so you can go through the same process we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm far more basic. I want to build a website. And there I am.
Okay. All right. Yes.
My reason for being here, the main thing that's stopping me from NationBuilder right now is the amount of resources we put into our current website with our current CMS,
Right.
and try to figure out how to replicate some of that content or move it into a NationBuilder platform.
Yeah. No, that's a common problem. In fact, a lot of our clients have exactly that issue. And just very quickly, because it's not something we're going to get into very today, but the answer to that, there's two answers. One is to think about the advantages of NationBuilder and decide to reinvest. But for a lot of folks, that's not financially feasible. So if you're like early on in your development process of your website, one thing you can do is you can actually make a NationBuilder site that looks exactly the same as the site you already have, and then run the two sites in conjunction. For instance, the Ontario Federation of Labour, which is one of our clients, does that. They have a big WordPress site that they spend thousands and thousands of dollars building, and they have a NationBuilder site, which is an action site for all those pages where you actually do something. It looks just like the other one. And as far as the user is concerned, there's no, like, they don't really understand that there's a difference, but it allows them to take advantage of NationBuilder and still not waste all that money that they spent on the old site. It's a good way to give it a try, see what it's like, see if it works for you, and then eventually you'll get the power of the integration of the whole thing. But, that's a good point. So let's just do one or two more. Yes, actually.
I guess my question is, I didn't walk in. I walked in like a second or two late. So is this like a WYSIWYG type thing, or is it like an HTML thing? Like when you're building it, is it like?
It's a little bit of both.
Oh,
It's a little bit of both. I'm not going to say that you can completely walk away from HTML if you're using HTML.
Well, that's sort of good.
But it is a content management, in the web portion of it, it is a content management system which does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Okay.
And also allows for someone like an expert or an architect like my firm to build something for you, and then you guys can use it on a day-to-day, where we've taken care of the more complicated details, and then in the day-to-day you can just take care of that. Like, so one of the common tasks is like post an update to the website, which is something that an organization should be able to do without having to ask for an outsider to do it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing I'm going to walk through is talking about that, because it's probably the most common thing. But I got one more hand in the back, and then maybe we'll.
So just to clarify, so if let's say an intermediate WordPress, would I be able to take over NationBuilder and be able to use it out of the box and work it right away as a developer?
Yeah, I mean,
Am I completely dependent on your company?
Well, you're completely dependent on NationBuilder, because it is a proprietary software compared to WordPress. You would be well served to consider having an expert if you're building a medium to large size project. You can. I've done a site for. There's an organization called Civic 17 in Toronto, which is working on civic issues in Word 17. We had a site up and running in half an hour, and as long as you accept all the defaults and you don't really care about looking the same as a bunch of other sites, and all you need is a place for people to gather together and work on that issue, you're ready to rock very quickly. But for organizations that have a brand identity and want to look a certain way, you're going to want to have a third party like us to help you make that happen, probably. So is there anybody else burning to share why they're here? If yes?
Why would someone choose you instead of WordPress?
Well, WordPress, so NationBuilder is in a class of its own. Okay? WordPress is a content management system for websites, as is Drupal, as is Joomla. Those are the big three players. They do websites. If you want to do the other bunch of things that Edward was talking about, you have to add things to them. You have to roll other things in. And in fact, my understanding of the story, maybe Edward can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the story of NationBuilder is a bunch of campaigners who kept going around and having to build the same cluster of tools over and over again, and then having to integrate them. And they said, well, why don't we just put all this stuff together in one box? You notice the logo of NationBuilder is like a little community in a box. So the idea is you turn this on, and you have everything an organization needs to do digital campaigning. It's a good place to start, so you don't have to have a high level of technical skill to get. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so why don't we try these first three? It'll start probably, it'll get people thinking about how the system works and stuff, and then we can, if there's still time. What time is this session supposed to end at?
That's where it's past 4.
Quarter past 4.
What's the next
I will, I'll try these three, and then we'll talk about if there are other issues that are, other tasks that kind of come to mind you might want to try out. Feel free to speak up, because I'm going to have to face this way, so I probably won't be able to see out of the corner of my eye, but I'll try. Okay, so first task is to get into my website, especially given that this web browser is in French.
Yes, talk about NationBuilder.
So NationBuilder is available in French both. It's
My
available.
keyboard's in French. Anybody know how to turn a keyboard off?
Hold down Control and then hit Shift right after the
NationBuilder is so in French, so obviously the web page you build can be in any language you want. The control panel, which is the back end where you actually do all the updates and you see all of the information, is in English, French, Canadian, French, European, and Spanish.
Can you do bilingual websites?
Yes, yeah.
Well, we're continuing to get there.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic, like it seems to answer every question we ever come up with that this will do it. But the only hesitation is, so you are opening up in Canada, but in terms of what your information is, it all like, it would be on our server, you don't have access to the names. It always concerns us when we're dealing with American software companies of what happens to our information.
So, do you want me to deal with this one? So,
Sure.
and I'll
we both hear this frequently.
yeah, we both hear this frequently, and I have a feeling I will probably give the more honest answers. Well, the more, I mean, I have labor leaders who talk about that, you know, very nationalistic labor leaders, who think that by having servers in Canada, you're keeping your data safer from the NSA.
Yes.
No, you're not. Like, if it's online, if you think that your data needs to be safe from the NSA, don't put it in a computer.
That's right.
The NSA has been caught redirecting computers coming out of factories, putting hardware in them, and then sending them on their way. Like, the internet is compromised by the NSA. We have to deal with that. There is not a technological solution to that problem. It's a political problem. We have to find a way to make it so that our governments are not allowed to do that kind of thing. So the question is, do we want to refrain from just using the best tools on the market available to us to organize people, to build power, to fight back against that kind of stuff, for fears that our tools might have compromises in them when the other alternative tools also have compromises in them? I'm not sure that that's the case. For the clients that I've talked to, they have made that decision that using this tool, even though the servers are in the US, is the right choice for them. It is a valid concern, and it's horrible what the security state of the United States is doing to the world. But I'm focused on building movements on the ground, and I need to use the best tools possible.
And just to add to that, so first of all, exactly what I would have said as well, and you know, in the context of sort of if you're online, there are potential risks with that. NationBuilder uses better than industry standard encryption and security protocols in order to keep the data, you know, safe. Use HTTPS for any time that there is sensitive information being input into the system, and abide by US EU safe harbor data privacy provisions. So we are, you know, as good, if not in fact better than sort of the industry standard of, you know, the Facebooks and Twitters of the world in terms of how we sort of treat the data.
And sorry, 1 second. I wasn't expecting to have to do this off the mic. off of this host computer, so sorry.
You have to remember your password for once.
Yeah, one of my favorite passwords.
I'll put those only one.
Well, and I use a password manager, so I don't ever actually have to do it. There we go. So as a, maybe as a question on security, so I manage a number of different nations, and so that's why I use two-factor authentication, which means you can't log into my accounts without having what's in my head and what's in my phone. So you'd have to both like interrogate me to get my passwords and steal my phone to get into my accounts. So that's as good as you're going to get online if you're not the NSA. If you're the NSA, well then you're done. So let's see here. Let's post a. So NationBuilder is divided into. Make sure that if I'm talking to the wall, let me know that you can hear me in the back. NationBuilder is divided into people, which is the database stuff, the website area, and the communications platform, which includes the email broadcasting, telephone stuff, social media, and the finances part, which covers all the donation pages and tracking that stuff. So today we're mostly going to focus on the website part, and you can see there all the sites that we're currently working on. But I'm just going to use the Campaign Gear site. So this is the web area for Campaign Gears. These are all the active pages. I think the first thing I'm going to focus on is the page type. So NationBuilder has 26 page types, I think, 20, something like that. Right, right. So it works. NationBuilder WordPress also has something called page types, but it's a little bit different in NationBuilder. So because they've expressly built out page types that are related to common functions that people who are campaigning do. So some of the page types include things like blog posts. Everybody does blog posts, but there are also things like vote pledge pages. That's a vote page. That's a page type, or a money bomb, which is a fundraising page type. So there are a bunch of different page types that capture most common activities that small community organizing groups do on that system. If you get it to, you can customize them a whole lot. And that's what companies like mine would do if you want to do real complicated things. But most of them, just straight out of the box, will cover what you want to do most of the time. So let's go onto the blog and post a new blog post. So this is the blog that I've written, which I haven't updated as much as I should have. Considering I was telling everybody in the workshop this morning that they needed to update their blog once every week. And I noticed it's been a while longer than that. But anyway, so here I am in the blog area, which I've set up. And I want to do a new blog post. And I'm going to do I'm going to try to type properly on this keyboard. People's social forum. So the slug is a terminology that's a bit unique to NationBuilder. A slug is, what would you call it in a WordPress site? A permalink, maybe. It's a unique piece of text that identifies that post in the system. And this actually kind of, it shows the difference between NationBuilder and other platforms. In other platforms, you get a lot of like the domain name and then slash, and 08, and then slash, and then all these other like sort of gobbledygook. And the reason that's bad is because that's not great for sharing. Social media doesn't like that very much. And so NationBuilder just skips that all entirely and makes you pick a slug that goes after the slash, after your domain name, and it's unique across the site. So it generates one just off the top of its head, but the idea is to try to keep it short so that it's really easy to share. You don't even necessarily, depending on how long your domain name is, isn't necessarily necessary to have a link shortener because your links are already pretty darn short. I'm going to leave it as is for now and run here to published. Can everybody see the things I'm clicking on here? Is it big enough? So I'm creating a blog post, and it has a headline here. Training at the People's Social Forum. It's written by me. Here's the published date, which I can change. Now, before the flip and after the flip, I think that would be in WordPress. It'd be like before the read more link or after the read more link. Basically, the flip is what's going to go on your front page, and after the flip is when you hit the read more link, what gets the rest that gets displayed. So I'm just going to write here. So there, I have my blog post. That is pretty much the basics. You can refine it somewhat in that there are things like these tools up here for the standard WYSIWYG tools for formatting content. You will, if you have a NationBuilder site designed for you, you'll likely have styles set up for you. So you don't necessarily want to change the font and that sort of thing. You want to just follow the styles that are set by your developer. But you can fiddle with those as is appropriate. Some of the tricky bits are that are inserting an image. In WordPress, I believe that the process is that you just hit insert image and it just uploads. It asks you to add something to your media manager. But in NationBuilder, there's actually another tab here, so I'm going to save my content. And you'll see along here, these are all the different tabs for my post, one of which is files. Now, I don't actually have a file on this computer, but if I did have a file, this is where I would upload it. And it gets stored in that particular post. So each post has its own library of stuff that's associated with it. So I'm going to go back here to my content, and I'm going to click here. And just for giggles, I'm going to see if I'm going to see if there's anything on this computer that I can just grab. Okay, let's do that. Okay. So I just grabbed an image off this file, off this computer, and so there it is. It's involved in the page. And now I go back to my content here, and I'll put it in here between these two pieces, and I hit my image button, and now it's in the image list. I just grab that, and I put in something better for my image description, like our logo. And I can change the alignment, dimensions, border, vertical space, all those sorts of things around an image. So here's my image that I grabbed off this computer. Hit my save content button. And I go here and open this up in a new tab. And this is what my blog post looks like. So if you go and look at the front page of the Campaign Gears website, which has a big video right in front, you'll see here, you go down here, this is, oh, there, blog post done. I mean, it would be helpful to actually have some content. But that's on the front page of my site, and how long have we been doing this? 8 minutes, 10 minutes. It's pretty simple. Yes?
If you were to wanted to have the document and people could download the PDF of Word or something, would you proceed the same way with the upload, and then instead of images, would you also load an image? Or?
Yeah, so what you would do is you would put it in the files area, and then you would get the link to that file, and then, you know what, let's do that. Let's pretend that picture that I uploaded. So let's pretend that this picture is a PDF file. So I would get, oh boy, this is French. Is it I think it's this. Yeah. So I just got, what I did is that I grabbed the link for it. And so I'm just going to put here, the screen is hard to, yeah. Okay, so I would just highlight this and push the link button. And then copy that, paste that link in there, insert. So now I have a link in my content to that content. I could also put it around the picture. Say content. Go back to the campaign here, say fresh. And here it is. When I click that, it goes to the top. Same.
It's also worth noting that inserting pieces of media, like videos, like YouTube videos, is actually substantially easier because you just insert the YouTube link into the content section, and it'll then wind up putting the thumbnail of the video in your blog post. And
where's the location now? The image went to the server, or is it on the client?
I'm sorry, where is the?
It's on the server. Yeah. And in fact, I should actually point that out. So let's go back here. So if you, how many, everybody know what a URL is? Yeah, everybody in this crowd? Okay. So you look up here and you notice that this URL is like some crazy long URL, right? So it's on cloudfront.net. And I think this is actually one of the hidden things about NationBuilder is the fact that all the content of your site is hosted on these cloud servers, which are administered by NationBuilder. If you're hosting your WordPress site or your Drupal or Joomla site, is on a single server somewhere that you may be the one who's responsible for making sure that that server is still working. In this instance, NationBuilder is responsible for making sure that their servers are still working, and they're quite good at making sure, especially with the nature of their client base, they're used to like the massive peaks of interest that happen on campaigns. And so they're very good at building out their hardware to make sure that they can take care of those peaks and valleys that happen in organizing, compared to like business sites that sort of are kind of more flat, that don't have those mad rushes of people come election day.
And if you have something that goes viral and all of a sudden your website gets 100,000 page views, you're not going to get a bill from NationBuilder that's higher than your last one was. Unlimited page views are included in every price tier, along with unlimited sends of emails, unlimited numbers of users that have access to the control panel. So there's, you don't need to be worried about, if something is really successful, then you get a bill in the mail saying, your page views cost this much extra.
So Rick Smith here is doing some good work on the tailings pond spill. So I'm going to put his video into my clip here. So I just go down here and anywhere, but I'm just going to put it down at the bottom for simplicity's sake. And to include that YouTube video, I just cut and paste that link. I hit save. And it thinks for a moment. And if I scroll down to the bottom here, it sees that it's identified that link exists there. And when I go over here to looking at my page, I hit refresh. And there's my video. Came back to this. And it does that using the embed.ly platform, which can handle 250 different sharing sites around the internet. Yes, Charles?
Just a the list of sites that Embedly will work with is not identical to the list of sites that will show up properly on NationBuilder. So an example would be Flickr. So just sort of know that going in, that aside from obviously a lot of it does work. Just if someone says, let's do this thing, it's on the Embedly list, like test it on NationBuilder. And the other thing, you didn't mention the social media settings. If I'm not mistaken, if you add those after you publish, then the metadata is already set with your defaults. And Facebook will show the defaults and not what you added. So add those social media stuff before you actually publish.
So what Charles is talking about there is, so we've so far mostly have just talked about the content tab, but you'll notice there's a whole bunch of other tabs here, right? So there's a whole lot more to posting these. You can tweak a lot of this, and when you're because on your page here, you notice that you've got the content of your post, but you also have these. Do you like this post mechanism here and commenting as well? And so you can set what Facebook automatically shares on the page. And sometimes that's not, what normally happens is it just grabs the headline. But that's not necessarily the best thing you want to share for the given page. You want to have it defined differently. So you can do that in the settings area under social media. See, it just grabbed my headline that I used. You can also change the pictures on a page-by-page basis of what will be shared onto Facebook. The Facebook sharing part is built in pretty much everywhere on your platform. The idea being that there's no point in anybody reading something on your website if you don't encourage them to try to get other people to read it as well. So, yes?
Your feature, the way there is in WordPress, you can go into the back end and fiddle with the HTML if it's not looking properly.
I was avoiding that because I thought it would scare people away. Yep, so here I am. Hit the HTML button. There's not very much HTML in that part, so there it is. This page down here is a little more so. And there you are. So yeah. But for most parts, you would probably want to try to keep your HTML work inside the theme file, which you would probably want to have an expert or a developer build for you. And then that way, you keep universally the look and feel across your site is the same. Otherwise, it gets a little crazy all over the place if people are doing it by hand on each individual post. Yes?
Sorry, you referenced Embedly. I'm wondering if, and the fact that you're not charging more for extra hits, are you charging more for extra storage? Like if we wanted to put our own videos up there instead of going for YouTube or large documents on your cloud?
So first of all, Embedly works by embedding content from other places. So that's YouTube and so on. There generally isn't video hosting on NationBuilder. The concept is you put that content onto other servers that are designed for that, and then you embed it in your website.
But if you wanted to upload, I don't know, an incredibly high resolution image or something like that,
Or a PDF or like an annual report that could get really big.
Yeah. So the answer is no. There's no extra cost for that. I don't know what our file size limit is, but it's in like the hundreds. Yeah, it's in the hundreds of megabytes. So.
We're a research institute, so we would upload our PDFs.
Right, yeah. No, CCPA, Good Job Summit for Unifor is one of our projects, and we're dumping all the CCPA reports for that, and haven't encountered any problems so far. Let's see. Turner, what time?
That just goes back quickly to the server question. It's in the States, but you know where it is and who runs it. It's all secure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talking about embedding, we have our website, for instance, a timeline, which is a script that we embed. Is that possible?
Anything that can be built in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which is like the vast majority of the internet can be built on NationBuilder. The only question is back-end stuff. Access to the database and stuff could be a little bit different than other platforms, but all that front-end stuff, if you have someone who knows how to do it, like campaign cures, it's possible. But I am noticing with Clock, and I wanted to get to more page types than this, so I just gotta quickly go over here.
Could you build us maybe like a story that goes through, sign this petition, it's taken to a volunteer page, it takes you to a donation page, some kind of like lead through.
The easier way to do that might be just to show them how to define where a page lands once someone takes the action, right? Because then all of these page types are pretty much the same. You click on a page type, you enter in the content you would need. So if it's an event page type, put the name of the event, the location, and it'll maybe Google Maps for you, all of that stuff. But there's always a setting that shows you where you can say, you know, after this page completed,
like, let's do this. So I have an event. If you look on the campaign gears front page here, so on the site, go down here, you'll see that there is this campaign gears at the People Social Forum event announcement, right? So if anybody came to the site and wanted to RSVP for this event, you'd end up on this page here, which has the map of where it is, University of Ottawa, and the events, and something going on with this, but anyway, this might be the computer on. So this event page would let me hit the RSVP button, and I would sign up. So if I go over here, and so I'm going to open up that event page, and let's see here, where is it? Where is it in the, oh, here it is. Okay, so after RSVP, what page should they land on next? So the structure would be, you encourage people to come to your site and sign up for an event, RSVP for it, and afterwards, once they hit the RSVP button, they'll land on the next page, which could be anything else. It could be, it could be a thank you page, it could be a request for donations, it could be a volunteer page to ask them to help with organizing the event. It could be anything else. At the top of it, there'll be a banner that'll say, you just signed up. Great, share with your friends. And it will prompt them to share with their friends. But and you can chain those actions as many hops as you want.
The two other really important things to just show, I mean, it applies to events, but also a whole bunch of other different things, is to tag someone who takes an action and to set them as needing a follow-up. So I don't know if you were going to get into that sort of later on time. Yeah, basically, the same way that anytime someone takes an action, you can prompt them to share, you can define where they land, you can also tag that person in your database with the name of the event or whatever you'd like to tag them, and you can assign them as needing a follow-up. So if you have a couple of volunteers who work for your cause, and one of them is your volunteer coordinator, you would want to set up your volunteer page so that they get tagged with volunteer when they say, time to volunteer, and they get assigned for volunteer outreach volunteers, and that goes into basically the NationBuilder inbox of your volunteer coordinator who logs in every day and sees who the people are that are assigned to them for follow-up that day.
So I think what I'm going to do, in fact, is do the last item on the list, which was send an email from NationBuilder. Yes?
So I just had a quick question. I work for an organization with a fairly broad number of systems. We've got a couple email lists, we've got Microsoft Access membership database, social media stuff. And I've seen that NationBuilder, you would create certain things like a website that you would actually create using the system, but then you also would link in to other systems like social media systems. And I'm wondering kind of like, what would you link into and what would you build? So for finance stuff, would it be like you build your own like membership database or donation database or email database in the system, or do you link to something else?
So I was in fact going to do an example that was exactly what.
Sorry, I'll let you
know. So you've all been texting in to sign up for the sessions that we've been doing. People have been calling me for the last couple of days because I was handing out all those flyers. And a few people have RSVP'd on the website. So I'm going to go over here to people, which is where the database is. It's a single database that covers everything. There's no multiple databases anymore. As a computer geek like myself, the concept of having multiple databases drives me bonkers. But I know that it happens in organizations all the time, right? So, you guys should all recognize your names on here because they're all you. Various people who have signed up for these sessions, right? So I'm going to do a search for anybody who's had activity in my nation today. So let's see here. Where is it on here? Let's see here. Has texted. Nope. Has texted. So that's actually more people than I want, but that's okay for right now. So I've got 70, because I've run a few workshops, so I've got 75 people who have texted me to sign into workshops. So I'm going to add them all to a list. And say texted. So now, all of these, for example, Sue here is on my list. Oh, I can't see it. Over there. There we go. People who, where's my list go? Save. Next day. Oh, I'm right. Again.
You got your full data, but you're at your full database, you're not in the
Oh, because it never hit refresh on the page. Yeah, there we go. All right, so sorry, just a moment. Oh, this page, this screen is not being helpful.
You start typing text.
Okay, so search. Now I'm going to add all these people to that tag, that list. All right, so all the people who have texted me have been added to my list. So now I'm going to go over to.
I just showed up on your screen.
How
embarrassing.
So, and having text keywords the way Ethan did is one of the most underutilized and effective parts of NationBuilder, because every time that your organization has an event or does anything, you should have a text keyword so that people can text in, and then there's an auto response that if the phone number exists in your database, it'll then just say thanks. But if the phone number doesn't exist, it'll say, looks like we don't know who you are. You give us your name, your email, we'll all gone through that process. But like we tell every single organization, use text keywords, because it's a great way so that every time you do something like this, your list grows, right? You get more and more people on your list.
So you notice here, like all of this stuff, the database part, the email creation part, the website part, it all looks the same, right? So you only have to learn one interface. You don't have to learn 6 different platforms. And so what I've been doing here, we did that website piece, and then I went over to the database part and searched for everybody who's texted me. And now I've gone over to the communications part to set up a broadcast email. I'm not actually going to do it, but so I got my texted people who have texted me list, and I'm setting them as recipients of this email. And so there's a whole bunch of people who have texted me, only 66 of whom have actually given me the full email address. And here I am in the email portion, and I can put in, you texted me. So we should talk. And so this bit of code right here puts in the first name of the person if the system knows it. Here, so. And thanks for the text at today's workshops. Here are the videos. And I would have, I'm going to actually send one of these messages later this weekend to all of you who sent in their text message with the slides and the videos that we've been making. And this is exactly how I would do it. So I go down here, and
This is part of the CRM. Yeah, there's a pretty element site on that one slide where you have.
so there's the CRM, which what I've been calling it. So a CRM, for everybody else who doesn't know what that means, it's a contact relationship database, manager, which I've been referring to as just a database. So there's the database portion, and then there's the email broadcast portion, and the website portion, and they're all connected to each other. So if someone takes action on their website, that adds their data to the database, and then you can take action on that in by sending them an email. And further to that is things like if you connect your Facebook page to your nation, then it brings all the people who interact with your Facebook page into your nation as well. And so the anybody who has an email address, it goes the other way. So if you put someone new into your database and you have their email address, it will go out and find them on Facebook. If there's someone who's got a profile on Facebook that has the same email address, it'll bring that data into your database. So all that stuff is all networked together.
Only the publicly available
Yes.
data is on from Facebook and Twitter. So from Facebook, you get their photo, their name, and their Facebook account, so that you could, if they have their settings set like that, you can send them a Facebook message. For Twitter, you get their photo, their name, their Twitter bio, and their Twitter handle. Little sort of thing that we've just enabled a while ago, that's a cool part of that, is you can search people's Twitter bios. So you can take a bunch of people from Twitter who follow you or who follow someone else, because everyone's follow lists are public, and look at their Twitter bio and search for keywords in those. Find people who might be specifically good targets to reach out to because they put the word environmental in their Twitter bio or something, or search for their city and a cause.
Learn new things every day.
Yeah.
We keep that. You had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. So as part of your whole system, when you create an event, do you have your own thing that's like an Eventbrite part where then you click in and you go and register, set up your payment thing and do all that, or would you?
You don't need an outside platform because it's all built into NationBuilder. So you'd end up with a donation page and you'd end up with like processing the cost of the event using the pages that are part of the finances portion of NationBuilder. But on the event page question, you can also synchronize it with your Facebook events. So if someone you can set up a Facebook event page and your page on your website and connect the two of them together. So if someone RSVPs on your Facebook page, it gets logged in the database along with all the people who did it on your website. So anywhere anybody does an RSVP, you can actually also have people RSVP by text message. And it all ends up in the database.
But like, even if you have to pay for the event, like, so you're paying for the event, and you can choose that.
You can, like, there's multitudes of different settings and configurations depending on the nature of your project. If you are doing a free event, most of my clients are unions, and they don't very often charge money for people, so it's all about just getting it in the database, and someone has indicated an interest, so you can follow up with them a couple of days before to make sure that they are actually going to attend. But then you can also do the financial processing part of the application. So we have a little over 15 minutes before we need to end. Or is it we end at 4 and then the next session is at 4:15? Okay. So feel free to pack up and head out, but I will stick around for some more questions.
We have 50 more minutes left in the schedule.
Oh, okay. Okay, there were a few more questions. If you don't mind, we've had a few questions. I'm wondering, want to encourage anybody who hasn't asked any questions yet to, if you have any, feel free to step forward. Yes?
On NationBuilder, is there a possibility to have like an online shop if you want to sell merchandise, like you want to sell something that people can buy directly on it?
Right. So I have one client, actually the Ontario Coalition for Better Child Care. There's two ways you can do it. One would be that we set up a bunch of donation pages that handle credit card payment processes. That can get a little unwieldy if you have more than, like they only have 6 or 8 purchase items. If you have a bigger thing, then that would be something that we would build probably custom using like HTML, CSS stuff that's sort of outside the functionality of NationBuilder. Unless I am missing something.
No, that would be the best.
Yeah, that's the best solution as far as I.
There's no out of the box, shop page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think actually that operative word is actually kind of important because the biggest thing that I've been impressed with NationBuilder has been that they're constantly evolving. Every election cycle that happens in the US, boom, there's a whole like another plethora of features and tools and ideas that people come up with. So you have that whole election industry that exists in the US perfecting the art of campaigning, and then here's the tool that we can use here in Canada where our election processes are just not big enough to really inspire that kind of innovation. So, yes?
2 questions, one very quick is, Eventbrite always takes a cut of the payments. Does NationBuilder take a cut?
No, NationBuilder doesn't take a cut, so the payments are processed by either PayPal or Authorize.net or whatever payment processor. Stripe is a tool we just added. They take a cut, but NationBuilder doesn't take anything in addition. So it's just the payment processing fees.
And then the second one, I signed up for NationBuilder like last week, and I see a bunch of my people are tagged with prospect, seems to be a tag that comes up, also supporter comes up. We don't have any support,
So the database divides people up into 3 categories. People are either prospects, supporters, or non-supporters. Prospects are people that you know about, and actually this is quite a significant difference from MailChimp, because MailChimp only lets you talk to your supporters. But what I like about NationBuilder is because it is about elections. I mean, the idea is that you would put in your voters list, everybody in the riding that you know about, and then you would be converting them from prospects to supporters. How do people become supporters is either you can set them as supporters just in the database, just because you know that they are, but most of the time people convert into supporters because they do something, get them to send a text message, or to sign up on the website, or they attend a meeting, or they do something that turns them, or they sign a petition, that turns them into a supporter. Non-supporters, and especially in a union, like my experiences in running union elections, you need to keep track of those those non-supporters, who are people who have piped up at a meeting and told the union boss to fuck off, or or as light as have unfollowed you on Twitter, or unfriended you on Facebook, right? So those various actions that have indicated that they're not quite as interested in hearing from you. The big one is actually unsubscribing from your emails. Those people become non-supporters. They're no longer interested in supporting.
And then people that aren't tagged with either prospect or supporter?
They are tagged with non-supporter.
People in your database that are supporters are there because you either taken an action that has made them a supporter, or when you imported them as supporters. Because when you import a list, you can say these people are all supporters or all prospects.
Sure. Yes?
How Canadian is it? I mean, if you do an event where you need to RSVP and affect that on someone, is it going to ask for zip code or postal code? Can you use postal code or support on the program? Do you have Canadian training or people that are available for support?
Well, I'm based in Toronto. I'm a Canadian citizen. My entire company is members of the Canadian Freelancers Union. We've actually made Unifor into a bit of an international because one of my developers is based out of Los Angeles and he's a member. So we're spending the other way. The code base is written in Americanese, but there are plenty of experts and architects that are in Canada who know to have versions of the themes that, we have a version of the theme that's in bilingual, it's both in English and French. So we can roll out a site in French as fast as we can roll out a site in English. And so it addresses things like state is not called state, it's called province. That kind of stuff.
But can you put both?
Both what?
Well, like wherever you're signing on, your place is there. Well, at least in Canada and the States. You know, I mean, you can't put in your postal code so they won't take you.
Oh, okay. So the way things like addresses, this is part of the it's a big ball with like spindles pulling out into all sorts of different places. We talked about Facebook. We talked about Facebook events and that kind of stuff. So address processing actually goes. All the address boxes that are on the site are actually Google address lookups, and so you can put anything into that address box, and Google will try to find you on the web. And then that's what gets stored in your database. So you could put in a host, like the idea, they've actually done a fairly good job of thinking about form fatigue, the idea that users hit a website, they see a big form, it's all really complicated with all these different parts, and then they just give up, they don't fill out the form. So instead, they make things as easy as possible, and they say, just one box for what your address is, and whatever you put in there, we'll figure it out. You don't have to jump through hoops to get the form to work. You just put in what you want, and we'll figure it out. And part of that magic is that that box goes to Google. Google figures out the details. Like if you just put in a street address, Google will go and find out, oh, you mean you're in Ottawa, so it's going to fill it out and put in the postal code.
Okay.
That kind of stuff. Like that kind
It
of.
doesn't go to your Google account per se, it goes to
Google Maps.
Google Maps.
It just goes to Google Maps.
That's interesting.
Yeah, right. So that's what.
Which then means when you make a list of people, anyone that basically put in enough information that if you put that in Google Maps, it would be able to drop it in somewhere. Anyone who has that amount of address information can be dropped as a pin on a map, that you a map view of any list of people you can see on a map. And it'll tell you how many of the people, there's 85 people on that text list. It'll maybe say, if there's some addresses, 35 of them are mappable, 50 of them are not mappable because you don't have sufficient address.
I thought I saw a hand down at the end. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry, just the default look for NationBuilder is your website. I understand it's personalized. So is that kind of the standard layout, or is that your design for it?
No, it's been pretty heavily designed. Here, I can show you. You know what? Why don't we do that for us? So here are some sites that we built.
That's nice.
Cool. It's good to find the search result for the site that you built in the computer that you're logging into. Oh, except that that's the wrong link. Here we go. That's the one. So that's one site that we built. Really good job, site.
Standard out of the box.
A bunch of there are.
This is another site.
I don't know how many new responsive themes that. So yeah, these are what you can do with customization. And then if you go to the NationBuilder's theme page, every theme has. So this is one. NationBuilder's website, nationbuilder.com. There's a themes tab. You can look at every theme.
I'm going to do this instead of showing you that one. This is one of our clients that has not chose to not customize their site particularly. Though it seems like they decided to put. So this is the Waterloo Regional Labor Council. They seem to have put a really large photo on their web page.
So go to NationBuilder's site.
So this is another theme that has not been edited particularly for the Ontario Coalition for Better Childcare. And then actually, we can actually.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yeah.
So just something folks should know is that with the rising popularity of NationBuilder and so many sites they use that way, you have to ask yourself, do you want to spend $2,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 on a customized theme that will make you look distinct, might remove the language that says built by NationBuilder that appears in emails in the corners, your site will then no longer be sort of very much like other sites. I'm noticing in the US that many political groups or folks with a very public brand name will pay that extra money because they don't want to look like anyone else. They want to have something that's specific. The shops that are doing a lot of this work actually have a set of themes that they use and can roll out for customers very quickly as opposed to building it from scratch. But I noticed that if you're just a local group, if you're tightly connected, if you're a membership thing where you all know each other, then those extra costs don't mean much. So they don't get you much that you wouldn't get anyway. So that might be the criteria, is like how you want to distinguish yourself from others in your field. Do you want to look special or not?
Yeah, for sure. The Waterloo Regional Labor Council did not need a unique look and feel. They needed a site that would work, was easy, would get the job done. The Good Job Summit for Unifor is like a major media project that they're trying to get people talking about that all across the country. So they're going to want to have something that looks uniquely different. So,
is it open?
Fellow over here, yes.
In terms of process, we're already talking to NationBuilder directly. We've got an extra layer, and we're part of the university's process. Our finances through their system. What's generally the first step? To contact the developer like you, or to contact NationBuilder and they'll recommend a certified developer, or how does that work?
My preference would be that you talk to me.
But it does happen both ways, right?
Yeah.
We'll call you and you'll then call me and say, hey, let's chat with this potential organization together. Sometimes they'll reach out to NationBuilder directly and they'll say, hey, we're Canadian, these are the things that we're trying to do, and I'll immediately think, I need to tell Ethan about this. So it's both ways. You can.
I think you've got to think about the questions you want to ask, right? Like the role of these questions. Campaign Gears in my company is focused on helping organizations campaign better. So I would prefer that my clients talk to me as early as possible in the process so we can talk about what you're trying to do and pick the technology accordingly. A lot of my clients have ended up at the doors of, we should have a NationBuilder system. But a few haven't. And it's just because that particular project wasn't suited for it. And there are other people who serve that kind of role. If you don't have the capacity within your organization to make those kind of decisions, to act in an educated way, I would suggest getting help before you talk to the major platforms out there. And because you can, as Charles was saying in an earlier session, I think, there are all sorts of people who have pet platforms or pet ideas about this. I was just involved in a situation where Kairos was the ecumenical social justice group had a long-standing relationship with someone who was a Drupal developer, and that organization only has 20 people in it, but they had already just like barreled down that road, so that's where they went, and they now are having a Drupal site built for them for like $20,000, and I think that they could have done it a different way. But they had interacted with someone who had a particular, this is the way things should be done kind of viewpoint for such a long time that that's where they ended up.
That's how we wound up on expression.
Right. Yeah, no, it happens all the time. It's unfortunate. It really, you want to be looking for someone who has a good survey of all the different platforms and whose investment, like their business interest is aligned with your organization rather than selling you a product. And so that's actually what I really liked about the NationBuilder environment, is that they had that in mind. They didn't just say, oh, well, we'll do sales too. They said, well, we should have third parties who can participate in that kind of client support stuff that are independent of us. And I've enjoyed working in this space for that reason. So I think that we're about to need to end, so I'll end it there. I'll put up, if you haven't signed in your text, please do so. And if you don't have text, feel free to write a piece of paper and put it on my laptop over there. But if you have any questions, I'm not going anywhere, so feel free to stick around. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Hello.
any of yours are open source, or you can just build like.
It's a proprietary. It's all proprietary.
Some sort of builder, website, so some people will
Like you can go in and use this, like that.
just because like our